We're kicking things off today on a high note with CultureCast with our good friend Vicki McKenna. Thank you so much, Vicki, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Good to see you. And so, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, patriarch, patriarch, patriarch. I mean, I'm wielding the phallus. Life is perfect for me. I have all this privilege oozing from every orifice. And then I look over at you, and you poor thing. I mean, can you even define yourself as a woman anymore? Can anybody bring you psychological help to figure out what a woman is?
I got to tell you, I'm having some massive dissonance here because, see, I learned from Ketanji Brown Jackson that unless I'm a biologist, which I'm not, I can't define the word woman. So here, all this time I thought I was a woman, but apparently I can't know that unless a biologist confirms that, and I don't know any biologists, so that's unfortunate for me. And then I learned from a professor of English literature at Miami of Ohio, a guy named James Bromley, that I can't use the substitute word female because that's deprecatory. And so I'm trying to figure out what I am, Duke. Can you help me? Because, we know what you are. You're toxically male. You're part of the patriarchy. You're a dude. You're a guy. You're a man. Me?
I mean, this is one more way.
I'm lost.
This is one more way the progressive left has just made my life easier. I am so transparently what I am that it cannot be argued away. And if I were to declare to be a woman tomorrow, you would have to take me as serious.
Right.
If you denied you can't deny woman for yourself, but if you tried to deny it for me, I'd be all over you with my lawyer team. Now,
that's right. And I'd get hounded off of Twitter and Facebook and all social media. Somebody would call my boss and demand that I be fired. You're exactly right. If you decided to call yourself DeWanda instead of Duke,
Duchess,
and demanded that I refer to you as female and let you into the ladies' dressing room, you know what? And I said something about it, that would make me a bigot. Yeah. I can't even define myself, but it would make me a bigot, apparently. At least this is according to the new sliding scale. I need a translator is what I need.
Please call me Duchess.
Okay, Duchess.
Just so you know. Now, I've got help. I'm bringing help from the medical community. I'm wondering if you're in a situation where, like when people get an arm taken off, and for the next 6 months they think they have it's there. It's there.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Maybe you have
phantom limbs.
Maybe you have a floating penis and don't know it.
I have a phantom penis?
Yeah, maybe.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe you have a phantom penis.
I may have a phantom phallus and I don't even know it. And someone is going to have to help me figure this out. Look, this is, where are the feminists on this is one of the things I can't figure out. The feminists are cheering it on. So what is feminism if feminism is cheering on the actual definitional erasure of women and females? Because if you can't say woman, you're going to say female. But if you can't say female because some clown is operating from a new translator that none of us got the updated software on, and we can't say female either, what's left? Do I have to describe myself as a human person with 2 X chromosomes? That's a little cumbersome, with all due respect. And does that really mean anything to anyone any longer, since apparently we're not defining anything biologically? Bizarre.
Well, I can help
you. It's meant to confuse and deconstruct.
It is, and I can help you with that. You and I have talked about this before. I go back to 30 years when I started graduate school. For a long time now, the feminists have really been Marxist masquerading as feminists. They're using feminism as the world they're struggling to fight, but they're really Marxist, right? As our environmentalists are really Marxist, as our, it goes down. Many of the transgender community are really Marxist. We know Black Lives Matter founders were actually Marxist. So this is all a catch-all. For you will abandon gender, you will abandon the environment, you will abandon all this stuff once the red flags rolls out in Washington, D.C., and America has abandoned free markets. Then you will see that this was all along a very consistent move towards cultural Marxism. And then once they take control, as they did in every other country like China and Russia, then all of a sudden, all that sympathy for people who think that they're something they're not, it goes away real fast, doesn't it?
Especially if you think that you're going to continue to have some sort of base of power and privilege. as you say, once the tanks and the red flags roll in. And you're right. This is about creating confusion. It's about creating dissonance. It's about making it difficult for us to define anything. It's about creating fractures within societal structures like family, friendship groups, neighborhoods, schools, the military, the law. If you can't define woman in the law, how do you expect to have any protections for women in the law? I mean, maybe we just all call ourselves men? But the whole idea of this is to get people frustrated and incensed and then at each other's throats so that the division is easier to sow and the division is easier to accomplish. Once that division happens, you're right, this is when the power brokers come in and establish themselves as the authorities, the authoritarians, and all of a sudden we are subject to their whims, and as if we're not already. We at least can fight back a little bit, but we are subject to their whims, their orders, their lack of logic, their rage, their hate, their homicidal inclinations, and their psychological, twisted natures.
All right, back with Vicki McKenna for CultureCast. Vicki, so let's talk a little bit more about the culture and what's going on with this. Talk about our new Supreme Court justice. It's a matter of time now. You can always find 3 cackling old women in the Republican Party who will vote for any other woman. And so you've got Murkowski, you've got Collins, and the most oldest of all the little old women is Mitt Romney, Mittens. Pierre Delecto is voting for her. So, but talk about.
Well, of course he is.
I mean, he is. But she's a judge. She's a judge, right? I mean, I get it. She's not a biologist, as she claims, but she's a judge who's responsible for hearing cases that are going to involve gender. I mean, if she cannot explain what a woman is, shouldn't she have to recuse herself on those?
She's not qualified to practice
the
law because woman, female, all of this is defined in the law. Our discrimination law is based on these definitions, knowable, discrete definitions of woman. So for her to say that is for her to suggest that there is no sort of ruler, benchmark in the law that she is willing to look at in order to rule on gender-based cases. So it's a jump ball. It'll just be what I feel like. Well, that's not what we expect judges to do. Furthermore, with regard to this judge, she's indicated that she believes she has the power and authority to usurp the legislature and change the law if she doesn't like the law. She doesn't like the sentencing guidelines for pedophiles and kiddie porn offenders. So what did she do? Took it upon herself to simply change the sentencing guidelines from much harsher terms to lighter sentences for child porn offenders and child abusers. And that's what we've seen as well. This isn't, by the way, just sort of a one-off. She has a history of ruling on these cases. She's apologized to kiddie porn consumers for having to sentence them to any time. It's bizarre that anybody would think to put her in a position where she could be on the Supreme Court now for the rest of her life. She's a fairly young woman. This is it's not a good place that we're going. Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't this it wasn't this soft on judicial philosophy. This woman seems to be shrugging her shoulders, saying, whatever the politics demand is how I'm going to rule.
Well, she also made an even more staggering statement over the woman question, or even over the pedophile situation. She actually said she has no stance on whether or not individuals have natural rights.
Yes,
and so
which suggests she has no opinion on whether or not the Bill of Rights is controlling in our Constitution or not. And again, she'll be ruling on questions involving the Bill of Rights as a Supreme Court justice. But Duke, she's there because she's black and female. Wait a second.
Well,
or black and woman. We're not sure. So the woman part, female part, I guess we put that aside because we can't really define it. And if we can't define something as immutable as biological sex, if we're not allowed to define that without experts, how about something like race, which is not as immutable? Race is not something that that you can't find ways to blend. You can't blend male and female, but you can blend black and white. So is it true that she's in fact a black woman, or must she define as well as a black woman? And if it's definitionally based, may I also define as a black woman, or, since the patriarchy rules, a black man?
Yep. And you know what's even worse than all of this is every approach that she's talked about, those three cases, right? Wanting to rewrite pedophile law because she feels sympathy for them, number one. Number two, as a woman herself, a self-proclaimed woman, she's unable to define even what she is. And
right.
then of course, the I don't know if there is such a thing as natural rights. The one thing that she's telling you, and you cannot miss it, and it shows you how politicized Murkowski and Collins and Mittens, Pierre-Electo, Romney are, that she's telling you to your face that I do not believe that that there is such a thing as factual inherent rights. And by me showing you how I'm ruling on these various ideas, I'm telling you to your face that I will not take the Constitution as it's written. I am not going to see the Constitution as an absolute benchmark of the law. I'm going to look everywhere else. And you would think if somebody said that in plain terms, and you want to consider yourself a Republican, I don't see how you can vote for this. But again, we've got two non-Republicans, and you've got one crazy man from Utah. So still, she's making it absolutely clear that if your very right, God-given right to have rights doesn't necessarily exist, then the Constitution is a meaningless document to this woman.
Well, and, let's not forget as well that she does not seem to be indicating she'll protect children from sexual predators either, which I find disturbing to say the least. I wonder what Mitt Romney has to say about that. Listen, she's receiving the support from these rhinos or non-Republicans or pretend Republicans. Two of them, she's receiving support because they actually believe that the editorials that would be written against them for being racist, for voting against a black woman who's not qualified to be on the Supreme Court. She may be qualified for a lot of things. She may be a very bright lady. She may be a very nice lady, might be a good mom too. But what she has said is that she is not qualified to rule on constitutional issues because she doesn't believe in the Constitution. That is what she said. They're afraid, though, that they're going to be called racists if they vote against her. And think about the media as well that relies on the Bill of Rights, notably the First Amendment, to exist. They are defending the appointment of a woman who has told them that First Amendment is not something she's terribly interested in preserving.
Well, and if you ask me, it's not even the fact that they're afraid Collins and Murkowski to vote against a woman, because if I'm not mistaken, Murkowski did vote against Amy Barrett. The two Republican so-called women are voting on the premise they know factually she will do nothing to attack abortion rights in any way. That's why they're doing
true.
it. Yeah.
Yes, 100% true. And they're also supporting, just like Joe Biden and the Democrats supported her nomination in the first place because they're racist. They only are voting for her because she is a liberal and she is skin color that checks the box on oppressed group.